Commit everything to the life you truly want. This isn't just a phrase. It's a decision. A line in the sand between the version of you that hesitates and the one that moves with intention. To commit means to stop waiting for the right moment and start building the life that actually reflects your values. Not the life that looks good on the outside, but the one that feels true on the inside. In this episode, we're not chasing motivation. We're laying the foundation for something deeper. Daily clarity, daily resilience, and daily follow-through. If you're tired of starting over, tired of quitting halfway, tired of wondering if you'll ever become who you said you would, this is your moment to reset. So listen closely, and when it's over, listen again. Let this be your companion for the next 7 days. And if anything here speaks to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it too. Leave a simple comment below. I'm committed. And let that be your first small action towards something bigger. And don't forget to subscribe. This isn't noise. This is for those who are done holding back. Let's begin. 1. Commitment is not a feeling. It's a decision. You've felt it before. That moment when you wake up and everything in your body says no. Your mind drifts, your energy feels low, and the excuses are lined up before your feet hit the floor. You tell yourself, maybe tomorrow will feel better. Maybe after a coffee. Maybe when life slows down, but if you're building the life you truly want, you don't wait for better moods or perfect timing. You decide. You act. And you do it even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Because commitment, real commitment, has nothing to do with how you feel and everything to do with who you've chosen to become. That's the difference between living a life that's reaction-based and living one that's built on discipline. People talk about motivation as if it's the fuel for everything. But the truth is, motivation is unstable. It comes and goes with sleep, with weather, with moods. If you build your life on that kind of foundation, you'll be building on sand. A commitment mindset, on the other hand, is solid. It's built through consistent, daily discipline habits. Not big, flashy declarations, but quiet, deliberate actions repeated over time. There is power in deciding before you feel ready. There's clarity in waking up and doing what matters, even when your emotions don't support it. And that's where self-respect is formed. Not in convenience, but in follow-through. You don't need to feel brave to act with courage. You don't need to feel strong to show up. Those feelings often arrive after the action, not before. That's something most people get wrong. They wait to feel ready to commit. But the ones who succeed, who truly build a life they're proud of, are the ones who stop giving feelings so much power. Your energy, your direction, your success, they all begin the moment you reclaim your right to choose. Mental strength is trained the same way physical strength is, through repetition under pressure. Every time you do the thing you said you would do, even when it's inconvenient, you build quiet mental toughness. You sharpen your inner resolve. You rewire the habits that shape your future. And that's what builds a consistent identity. Not how you talk, but what you repeatedly do. It's not glamorous, and that's why most people avoid it. But if you're serious about building a life that's yours, not borrowed, not forced, not performative, you must decide that commitment is your default, not your exception. And that decision will demand more from you than comfort ever will. But it will also reward you with something no shortcut can: integrity, peace, direction, because the cost of drifting is always higher than the cost of discipline. One day you'll look back, and you won't remember the days you felt tired or distracted. You'll remember the moments you didn't quit, the ones where you went anyway, showed up anyway, kept your word anyway. And those moments, the small, quiet, daily ones, are the bricks that build a life of purpose. So stop waiting for signs. Stop waiting to feel different. You already know what matters. Now decide to act like it. Not once, not when it's easy, but every day, every choice. Because the future belongs to those who commit fully, daily, and without excuse. 2. True commitment shows when no one is watching. Imagine it's late, the house is quiet, you've finished everything that was required of you, the deadlines, the calls, the social obligations. Now it's just you, the clock, and the silence. This is the moment most people waste. They reach for comfort, for noise, for distraction. But not everyone. Somewhere, someone is doing the hard thing, the quiet thing, the thing no one will see. Maybe it's your neighbor, out in the garage under a single flickering light, sleeves rolled up, oil on his hands, working on an old motorbike, not because it pays, not because it impresses anyone, but because he made a promise to finish. Or maybe it's you, writing page 300 of that book no one's asked for yet. Or lacing up your shoes at 5:15 a.m. when the streets are still empty. Real commitment doesn't ask for recognition, it asks for a return. It asks, will you come back, even when no one claps, even when the results are slow, even when no one's watching? That's where the foundation is built, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. You see, discipline is forged in solitude, when your choices are yours alone, when there's no performance, no applause, and no one to impress. That's when your character is formed. It's easy to be dedicated when others are cheering. It's much harder to be consistent when all you hear is your own breath and your own doubts. But that's the difference between appearance and identity. Applause might validate what you do, but silence tests who you are. The people who build powerful lives, the ones who earn real self-respect, aren't the ones who chase visibility. They're the ones who've trained themselves to do what matters, long after the audience has left. Because when it comes to building mental strength, it's the quiet repetition that counts, the unposted effort, the unnoticed consistency. Those are the moments where inner resolve is carved. Every time you show up without the dopamine hit of being seen, you reinforce a decision. I do this not to be admired, but because it's who I am. And that decision, made again and again, becomes your foundation. If you're serious about long-term growth, you can't outsource your discipline to other people's attention. You can't let your consistency depend on someone watching. That's not a strength. That's performance. Strength is when no one notices and you still do it. Strength is when you're tired, when the numbers haven't moved, when progress feels invisible and you keep going. Because you're not chasing moments, you're building a life. That takes emotional self-leadership. That takes a commitment mindset most people never develop because they confuse motivation with maturity. Motivation waits for momentum. Maturity shows up without it. So next time you think no one's watching, remember this. Those are your most important hours. That's where your future is quietly being shaped. That's where your habits are solidified. That's where your real values are exposed. Anyone can perform when there's a reward, but it takes someone uncommon to commit in private, to protect their mental energy without needing praise, to build quiet mental toughness while the world's asleep. So ask yourself now, what would you still do if nobody ever said good job? Because of that answer, that's who you really are, and that's what you're really building. 3. It's not about starting strong, it's about staying through the middle. Everyone knows the rush of starting something new, that clean slate, that burst of motivation, that belief that this time will be different. You lay out your goals, you map the plan, you get the gear. Week 1, you're on fire. You show up early, you check every box, you even start preaching the gospel of discipline to your friends. Week 2, still good. Slower maybe, but steady. Then week 3 hits. Life throws a wrench, a bad night's sleep, a work deadline, someone else's crisis. Suddenly the spark is gone. It's not fresh anymore. It's not shiny. It's an effort now, quiet, uncelebrated effort. This is where most people fall. Not because they're weak, but because no one warned them. This part, the messy middle, is where commitment is tested. It's the part without applause, without visible change, where the temptation to quit hides in plain sight. But that's the thing. The middle isn't a problem. It's the proving ground. This is where the discipline mindset takes root. When your feelings no longer lead the way and your daily discipline habits kick in. When the noise fades and you're left with your choice, keep going or go back. This is where consistency starts to feel lonely and your old habits start whispering in your ear. Take a break. It's fine. You've done enough. But you haven't, because you didn't come this far just to circle back to average. The truth is, anyone can start with passion. Few stay with purpose. Building the life you want isn't about one grand sprint. It's about showing up in the middle. When you don't feel it, when no one cares, when progress is slow, you don't rise by bursts. You rise by resilience. You rise by mastering the uncomfortable. The middle is where you meet the real you, not the version you imagined at the start, but the version that's forged through resistance. It's where you build quiet mental toughness, not with hype, but with repetition. It's where you train your emotional self-leadership, not with wins, but with choices. So if you're there now, in that drag and that slow grind, don't let it fool you. That's not a signal to quit. That's a signal you're right on time. Every life worth building has this phase, and every person who ever crossed the line of real transformation had to outlast this silence. You're not behind. You're just in the middle. And the middle has one rule: stay. Stay when it's boring. Stay when it's slow. Stay when doubt grows louder than results. Because when you stay through the middle, you earn something deeper than achievement. You earn self-respect. And that becomes the fuel you carry into every next phase of your life. No one remembers how you started. They remember what you finished. And the only way to finish strong is to stop quitting in the middle. So breathe. Reset your focus. Block the noise. This is your test, and you're capable of passing it. Not because it's easy, but because you're not the same person who started. You've seen too much, you've come too far, and now it's time to stay. 4. Commit to who you want to become, not what feels comfortable. There's a moment every day when you stand at the edge of two futures. One is easy, one is right. You know what it looks like. You open your eyes, and before your feet hit the floor, you already know the things that would move your life forward. That difficult phone call you've been avoiding, that focused hour of deep work you've delayed all week, that workout you said you'd do, that boundary you keep telling yourself you'll enforce. But then comfort creeps in, soft, persuasive, familiar. The couch is warm, the excuses feel reasonable, the scroll is easy, the snack feels deserved, the delay feels harmless. But it's not. Because in that tiny moment of hesitation, you're not just choosing ease, you're rejecting the future version of yourself. The stronger one, the wiser one, the one with clear self-respect, mental strength, and calm certainty. And while comfort feels good in the moment, it robs you of transformation. Every time you avoid the uncomfortable thing that challenges you, you reinforce the same internal patterns that have kept you stuck. You're telling yourself that ease is more important than evolution. But the life you want, the one where you lead yourself, stay consistent, and command quiet confidence, doesn't grow in that zone. It lives beyond it. That version of you keep picturing, he doesn't just magically appear. He is sculpted, layer by layer, in decisions that nobody sees, in moments where you say no to comfort and yes to discipline. In that precise second when the lazy option tempts you and you walk past it, that's where you begin to change. That's where commitment turns into character. Because who you want to become isn't built on what feels good. It's built on what strengthens you. Growth doesn't come dressed as victory. It often arrives disguised as an inconvenience. It's early alarms, awkward conversations, disciplined choices, and silent sacrifices. That's the price. But what you gain in return is worth far more. You gain inner strength that doesn't shake when life does. You gain clarity that cuts through distraction. You gain daily habits that shape a future you won't have to escape from. The reality is, most people choose ease and call it peace. They stay soft and call it self-love. But deep down, they know. They know they're not becoming who they could be. You know too. That quiet dissatisfaction, that restlessness when you delay what matters, that's your future self knocking. He's not asking you to be perfect. He's asking you to choose him over comfort, to act like you matter, to move even when it's easier to stay still. So next time you're tempted to retreat into what feels good, stop. Breathe. Ask yourself, am I choosing comfort or am I choosing the man I said I'd become? Because in the end, it's not your goals that shape you. It's your choice. And the man who chooses growth over ease, consistency over comfort, and purpose over passivity, he becomes unshakable. He becomes unforgettable. Most importantly, he becomes free. Free from regret, free from excuses, and free to walk with the kind of quiet power that only comes from self-mastery. So today, commit, not to the easy thing, but to the right thing. Not to how you feel, but to who you're meant to be. 5. Real commitment lives in your daily choices. The decisions that define you are never the loud ones. They're the quiet ones you make alone when no one's watching and there's nothing to prove. You think commitment is a big moment, a speech, a declaration, a breakthrough. It's not. It's whether you reach for your phone or your journal first thing in the morning. It's whether you stretch for 10 minutes or scroll for 20. It's whether you calm your breath when someone cuts you off or let your reaction run wild. These aren't just habits. These are votes. Votes for the kind of person you're becoming. The truth is, most people don't lose their way because of one massive failure. They drift. They make small choices that seem harmless, but repeated often enough, they quietly dismantle direction. That's why daily discipline matters more than inspiration. That's why consistency outweighs intensity. Because the life you truly want, the one built on clarity, inner resolve, and strength, isn't waiting for a spark. It's waiting for a system. You don't rise to the level of your vision, you fall to the level of your structure. Every choice you make either builds momentum or steals it. Either way, you're always building. The question is, toward what? Are your choices aligned with what you claim to want? Or are they just echoes of old habits you haven't had the courage to confront? If your words and your actions don't match, it's not your dream that's broken, it's your consistency. Real commitment doesn't scream, it whispers. It shows up in how you close your day, how you handle silence, and how you respond when your routine is disrupted. It's not about perfection, it's about honesty. Because what you do repeatedly, even when no one sees it, becomes who you are. If your daily actions don't reinforce your long-term identity, your life will always feel unanchored. That's why emotional self-leadership is essential. It's the ability to make clear choices not based on mood, but based on what matters most. It's choosing a long walk over a short distraction. It's choosing water over caffeine at midnight. It's choosing to end a toxic conversation early, even when your pride wants the last word. These things seem small, but they're not. They are the foundation. They are the evidence of whether you're truly committed or just performing. If your goal is mental strength, it starts here. If your desire is to build quiet mental toughness, this is how. You show up for the process. You stick to the routine. You make your systems stronger than your stories. You take responsibility for the hidden hours, the ones no one claps for, but everyone eventually sees the result of. So, stop saying you want a powerful life while maintaining powerless habits. Stop claiming you want freedom if you still choose every easy escape. Instead, commit, not in a dramatic moment, but in the next small decision. The way you eat, the way you speak, the way you return to focus when you drift. That's where self-respect is built. That's where confidence is earned. And that's where transformation, real sustainable transformation, begins. Because at the end of the day, it's not what you say that tells your story. It's what you do daily. And your daily life is either proof of your discipline or the reason you still don't have what you say you want. Choose wisely, then choose again tomorrow. 6. Every time you don't quit, you rewrite your destiny. There's a moment that comes to every person chasing something real. A quiet moment, often late at night or in the early hours of doubt, when you look at everything you've poured in, the time, the energy, the belief, and wonder if it's worth it. Maybe the progress is too slow, maybe the setbacks are too many, maybe the silence has gotten too loud. And in that moment, quitting starts to sound like relief. Not because you're weak, but because you're tired. Because you've given more than you thought you had, and the reward hasn't shown up yet. That's the edge, the place where most people turn around. They walk away not with drama, but with a quiet resignation that sounds like, maybe it just wasn't meant for me. But here's the truth, that's not the end of the story. That's where the script can change. Because every time you don't quit, every single time you feel like walking, but choose to stand, you don't just build resilience, you rewrite who you are. You prove that you're not a product of your circumstances. You're a product of your decisions. Most people think destiny is some mystical force you stumble into. It's not. Destiny is constructed, one painful, boring, disciplined step at a time. And what most people call fate is often just the byproduct of someone who refused to give up when it would have been easier to stop. The man who stayed in the game one more day, one more hour, one more set, even when the results were invisible, he's the one who rewrites the outcome. That's what makes persistence powerful. It bends reality. It chips away at resistance until resistance has no choice but to move. And sometimes the shift happens slowly, quietly, without any applause. But it happens. The business starts growing. The body gets stronger, the mind calms, the vision sharpens, not because of a lucky break, but because you chose to outlast the discomfort. You chose to lead yourself emotionally through the storm, instead of waiting for the weather to change. And that's where mental strength is born, not when everything's working, but when everything feels stuck and you move anyway. That kind of quiet mental toughness isn't taught in books. It's earned in the lonely spaces between setbacks. So if you're there right now, in the middle of something that feels too heavy or too far, let me say this clearly. Don't leave yet. Not because it's easy, not because it will suddenly get better tomorrow, but because your future self is watching. And every time you refuse to break, you give that man a chance to live. The man who stayed, the man who rebuilt, the man who didn't let the story end in the valley. He's real, and he's shaped in moments like this. You don't need a win today. You need endurance. You don't need clarity. You need commitment. And if you can hold the line just long enough, the breakthrough comes. Maybe not in the way you imagined, maybe not on your timeline, but it will come. Because the ones who build real lives, lives marked by strength, purpose, and quiet resolve, aren't the ones who always win. They're the ones who stay when others leave. They're the ones who decide again and again, this won't be the day I quit. So if you're at the edge, take one more breath, one more step, and remind yourself, every time I don't quit, I take back the pen and I write the story I actually want to live. 7. Give everything, even your fears, doubts, and old limits. Imagine trying to squeeze a full suitcase through a narrow door. It jams, not because the doorway changed, but because what you're dragging behind you is simply too much. That's what it's like when you try to step into the life you want while still clutching the fears, the doubts, the excuses you've rehearsed for years. Old stories like, I always mess this up, or people like me don't succeed, or what if I'm not good enough? These beliefs don't scream, they whisper, they hide in your tone when you speak about your goals. They show up when you hesitate to take a risk. And they don't just take up space, they block you entirely. You say you're committed, but part of you still holds back. Just in case it doesn't work. Just in case you fail and no one catches you. That's not real commitment. That's a performance with an escape plan. The truth is, you can't build something strong with one foot still stuck in hesitation. The life you truly want, one built on quiet strength, mental clarity, and emotional self-leadership, won't let you through the door unless you come whole. And coming whole doesn't mean you're perfect. It means you bring everything. The courage, the fear, the pain, the grit. You stop pretending you've got it all together and instead admit, this is me and I'm still showing up. That kind of commitment doesn't hide behind maybe. It lives in the word all. All of your attention, all of your presence, all of your trust is in the process, even when the outcome is uncertain. And yes, giving everything means giving up things too. Not because they're bad, but because they no longer belong in the story you're writing. The comfort of who you were, the lies someone else planted, the self-imposed limits you didn't question. These aren't just dead weight. They are locks on the very door you're trying to walk through. If you want freedom, you can't keep feeding the things that chain you. If you want to feel powerful, you can't keep nurturing your powerlessness. Real growth means you risk something. You don't just change routines, you challenge identity. You look in the mirror and say, this story ends here. I won't carry it another step. That's how you step into real commitment, not with better plans, not with more motivation, but by surrendering what no longer serves the man you're becoming. That might mean walking away from people who drain you. It might mean silence when your ego wants to shout. It might mean beginning again, this time without the mask. But in that shedding, you gain something rare. Space. Space to breathe. Space to move. Space to finally build with both hands instead of one. Always holding fear. Because that's the truth no one tells you. Your future isn't being blocked by the world. It's being blocked by what you refuse to let go of. So give it all. Not just the best parts, not just the polished version, but the pieces that shake when you speak them. The parts that doubt when no one is watching. The quiet grief over past mistakes, and the quiet hope that maybe, just maybe, this time you'll make it stick. Bring that too. Lay it down, all of it. Because once your hands are empty, you can finally build. You can finally rise, you can finally walk through. Not carrying the past, but carrying the strength that came from finally releasing it. That's how you give everything. That's how you cross the line. And that's when your future starts breathing. The life you truly want doesn't come from bursts of motivation. It's built through quiet mental strength, daily discipline habits, and a commitment mindset that doesn't fade when things get hard. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be present. Every day, in small ways, with full intent. The decisions you make when no one's watching, the moments you stay when it's easier to leave, and the times you choose purpose over comfort, these are the building blocks of a life with meaning. It's not about controlling everything. It's about leading yourself through anything. So commit fully, consistently. Let go of what holds you back and step into the version of yourself you said you'd become. Your energy, your habits, and your clarity are more powerful than you think. Now it's your turn. Share your story in the comments below. What's one commitment you're making today to the life you truly want? Your words might help someone else find the courage to begin. And if this video gave you clarity or strength, give it a like and don't forget to subscribe. This space is for those who choose inner power over outer noise. One decision at a time. One day at a time.